What's up, people? Welcome back, and I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking. Today's video is going to be really cool. I'm kind of excited about it. I haven't done one. Maybe I've done one before, but not entirely sure. But we're going to be talking about sound design, and this is really, really exciting because most of you definitely do not know that I come from a music background. I started my creative journey as a music producer, a DJ, an audio engineer. I actually went to college for 1.5 years for audio engineering music production before I dropped out. So my background actually comes from the audio music space. And I do believe, and I'm truly grateful for that entire experience and that part of my life, because I do think it helped shape me to kind of be the filmmaker and be the creative that I am today. A lot of my films, a lot of the things that I create have a very extensive musical kind of note to it, a lot of really awesome sound design. I take a lot of pride in sound, and I take a lot of pride in mixing music together to make it sound like one song where it's actually 4 songs. So you're going to actually see that today, where I'm going to be kind of diving into the sound design of my latest video, the FX3 workout video that I recently just shared. And again, that was all thanks to Adorama TV for graciously letting me try out the FX3, the Aperture 1200D, the Aperture 300D. That was a really fun project, and I'm really stoked about it. So if you haven't checked it out, the full video is right here, right over there, or over here. It's somewhere, but if you want to watch it, it's on my channel. But today we're going to be talking about how I did the entire sound design for that video. Quick disclaimer, I am not a professional sound recordist, sound designer. I'm not a professional at any of this. I just do it as for fun because I'm passionate about it. I really like it, and it's something that I'm pretty good at, and it is something that honestly makes the video. So yeah, I'm a big believer in sound, and a lot of the times when you're watching a video, you're like, oh my gosh, this looks so good. This is amazing. But most of the time what you're referring to is the combination between video and sound. When you turn off the sound and you're looking at the visuals, it does not do the same thing. So I really hope that you get to take away at least one thing from this video to help improve your videos. And the first thing that we're going to do is just play back this video with all of the sound design and music, and then we'll play it back without any of the sound design and just the music, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into each of the different sounds. So hopefully you enjoy. All right, so this is the video with music and sound design. Also, I'm lowering the quality of the playback just in case there's any lagging. I'm setting the playback to quarter instead of full. All right, so here's the video again with just the music and 0 additional sounds added to it. All right, so as you can probably tell, it feels tremendously empty. Like there's nothing there. And that is honestly what I'm really proud of this video actually is, even though there is a lot of sound design, I think I have about 30 tracks of different audio sound bites, punches, whooshes, whatever. It doesn't feel like it's just thrown in there for the sake of throwing in there. It adds so much, like the punching, the rattling of the chain, the bell of the boxing ring, all of these different things I feel like add to the texture, add to the emotion, add to the intensity of this video. And without it, it just feels kind of empty to me. And now we're going to dive a little bit into a couple of these different sound design techniques that I use, and hopefully you'll be able to get a little bit of some new knowledge with it. So let's talk about some of this sound design. So what I'm going to be doing is playing the music and soloing a couple different sound designs so you could hear a couple different things individually. Then I'll be playing it together so you guys can get a full understanding of what the entire sound sounds like. All right, so we're going to start with the intro, and the first is just the music of her stretching. Then it goes into this little quick sequence of her punching just to create a little bit of interest, a little bit of quick little pop essentially in the video. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the music and the initial whoosh going into the punches, and it sounds like this. Let's listen to it one more time. And without it. So as you'll notice, a little whoosh can just kind of add a little bit of a lead in to the next scene, and it doesn't have to be too loud. You don't want it too quiet either, and you don't have to layer them too much. You just want to be able to initially allow the audience to get an understanding that something's going to happen, essentially, like something's going to happen. So now let's introduce a couple of the punches together. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different sounds here. And these are all layered to create a punching sound effect. The reason why I have 4 different punching sounds is because 3 of them are for every single punch. The 4th one is added on specific punches to add a little emphasis and add a little bit of essentially just power. So you'll hear it here. So this is the music, whoosh, and punches. Now, let's play it one more time. Okay, so now I'm going to take the 4th hit out, which is the big punching hit, and it's just going to be the standard 3. So as you'll notice, it feels a little bit weaker. It doesn't feel as heavy. Now, when adding that back, you'll notice that it just adds a little bit more power, adds a little bit more oomph, essentially. It just makes it feel like there is, again, power going on. And that's really what I was going for. It's just the feeling of this is like bold. This is, I want to feel the punches, essentially. What we're going to talk about again is some more whooshes. So I'm going to take off all of the punches. And the reason why I have these are before every single punch, there's a little bit of a, just to add a little bit like the wind kind of pushing, like as you're punching, there's a little sound going behind the punch, and it'll sound like this. You hear the, it's almost like a shaker, honestly, but it adds a little bit of something just to, again, get your mind secretly anticipating punches, and it makes it, for me, feel a little bit more realistic. So let's hear those with the punches. Again, super subtle. You might not even be able to hear it, but it is definitely there. I hear it because I made it, but I always add a little bit of whoosh before any sort of action just to emphasize a little bit of motion going into that hit. All right, so next we're going to talk about a couple more whooshes, and we're going to be talking about the chain sound. So without the chain, it just sounds like someone's punching, but adding that chain sound, I feel like really adds a lot of, makes it feel real that she's punching a punching bag. And it's a very subtle sound. It's not like it has to be timed perfectly. It's more of an ambient sound in the background mixed with a little bit of reverb to know that the audience can kind of hear the chain, but it doesn't have to register exactly how it would sound in real life. And then we have an ending swoosh to hit here to signify the end of that little scene to go back into the next cut. And now with all of those paired together, you'll notice that it sounds extremely full. All of the punches sound hard, they sound realistic, and the whooshes, they sound like they're leading into something. So let's hear it one more time. One more. And something with the punching also, even though she's doing it in a specific motion, having the whooshes and having it almost just sounds like you're making a beat. Like it just sounds like not sure if that's just like how my brain works, but for me, it feels like it's actually making a beat. It's like in time with the song. It sounds like it should be there. Forgot actually. So leading into the punching, I talked about that little whoosh, but I forgot to mention that I actually have a bigger kind of reverse brass coming up, which leads into the punching a little bit more and makes it more dirty, essentially. And it sounds like this. So I'm not sure if you heard that, but I will just solo it without any of the punches and any of the other whooshes. So again, not sure if you heard it. I will actually release some of the curve just so you could hear the entire thing. And I'll play it without the music just so you could hear it. And I'm actually a very big fan of brass and these type of cinematic, huge sounds. I actually used to use these in a lot of the music that I make. And for me, it just makes everything feel grand. It makes everything feel like it's a lot bigger than it actually is or should be. But when placing this sound inside of the timeline, you can't just have it out there. It makes no sense to have that like that. But what I like to do, even though this isn't essentially a uplifter or a riser, by creating a fade into it, you're essentially creating a riser now. So it starts from a very low volume to a much louder volume, hence a riser uplifter. And that just leads right into the punches and adds a little bit more of an aggressive grunge feel. So before we move forward, I just want to talk a little bit about the specific sounds. I've been acquiring sounds for years now since I started doing music. I've acquired different soundscapes, vocals, choirs, strings, brass, hits, uplifters, risers, impacts. I've acquired so many different sounds over the years, but even to this day, if I still can't find something, my go-to sources are Epidemic Sound and also another company called Splice. I've been using Splice for years now, and this is not a sponsored ad or anything, but I just want to provide you guys with some recommendations on if you're having trouble finding sounds and YouTube isn't working or freesounds.com or whatever isn't working either, you'll really be able to find some high quality sounds at Epidemic Sound and Splice. So for this example exactly, all I did was search boxing, punching, and you could literally just find some amazing sounds. And the thing is, when you hear one sound, don't get too discouraged that, oh, it doesn't sound like the video over here, because listen to just one punch. Doesn't sound like much of anything, does it? But you have to think in terms of layering. So when you layer all four of those punches together, it sounds like this. Much better, right? So don't get too discouraged when you only have one sound and it's not working. Layer different sounds on top of each other to create a more full and richer sound. All right, where do we want to go next? Where do we want to go next? Here, leading into the shot of just her face, we have these, again, risers, these horns, things that create aggression, tension, and I'm just going to be playing those with the song so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. And now we're going to play it without the horns so you could hear that it is not as aggressive. It is not as aggressive. Doesn't really do much for you, especially when you're leading into a new part of the scene where you want to build the tension, build the anxiety, and then just drop off hard. That doesn't really do it for me. But utilizing the song and feeling that there is a bit of a lift, a bit of like a riser in the song, you can match that with some additional sounds. So here are the two risers that I used with the song, and I'm only going to play the two risers now. And you'll hear that they are pretty aggressive sounding. One more time. All right, so we're going to play it again with the song one more time. Two things here. One, it creates aggression, it creates more tension, it emphasizes the riser, but at the same time, it's not a standard white noise riser where it doesn't have to match a specific sound. Coming from a musical background, I look at the keys of the song, whether it's in G minor, A major, F sharp minor, whatever the key of the song is that I'm using, I try to find sounds that are in the same key, same note. Say this song is in F minor. I want to be able to find a song, or I want to be able to find a brass sound that starts in F minor or is in a relative key that is in that scale. So by doing that, it doesn't sound like that sound that you're choosing is out of place. It sounds like it's actually part of the song. And that's like a big thing for me, is creating sounds that sound like they're a part of the song. So it sounds like it's one whole cohesive song, when in reality there's 15 different things underneath it. But within the same key, within the same couple notes, you'll be able to place them properly and sound like they're in the same song. So that is a big piece of advice for me, is when you're choosing sound like brass, horns, strings, piano, choir, all of these different things where notes and tonality is important, you want to make sure that you are in the scale of the song, you're in the same key of the song, so it doesn't sound like it's out of place. All right, so moving on to the next part right here, we are going to be talking about this break in the song. This is where I end the song completely. And what I did was no song. I just added a kind of hit, and then I reversed the hit. So it's go boom, but then there's a delay. So boom, 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 boom. And then underneath it is that exact sound, but reversed. So it's rising as the other one's falling. So it's like boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Let's hear what that sounds like, because I'm not doing too good at it. Boom, 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 boom. That's what it sounds like. And that's essentially just a hit with a roll-off kind of delay, reversed up to an uplifter. One more time. And now I layered that with another hit right here. So if you could hear that, it's called a deep water hit, and essentially it just sounds like you're underwater, but it adds a nice bass tone to it. It adds a nice additional layer to thicken the hit. Okay, so when layering those together, you get this sound. One more time. So the hit is a great way to just stop whatever you were just playing. It doesn't have to be a smooth transition out. It could just be a boom. It could be a hit. And then reversing the same sound underneath it to create its own riser was a really interesting technique that I just kind of stumbled upon and wanted to try. And it seemed like it worked out really well, because it for this scene, it's her face, and she's just like locked into the camera. And I felt that no music, but just this rumble, this bass, was a great way to kind of create a break in the video, but lead really hard into the next fighting power scene. And another note that I want to say is, when you have a song that is extremely bass heavy and you're including punching sounds, kicking sounds, all of these different sounds that have a lot of range in the scale of the EQ, a lot of things that I do is I like to keep the bass of the song and then cut a lot of the low end out of the kick, a lot of the punches, a lot of the things, so it doesn't create a muddy sounding sound. You want to create room in the frequency chain for different sounds. Each sound should have its own space in the frequency chain. So if the song is so bass heavy, but you love that bass and that's why you chose the song, don't have too much bass everywhere else. Create some things with some midtones, some highs, just so it adds a little bit more of a richer and fuller sound. Next thing we're going to be talking about is this little area right here. And this is where I start to introduce a little bit of a choir. I introduce some more sounds here. So without any of the music, this is what it sounds like. So without any of the music, after all the punching, this is what it sounds like. It goes from a whoosh to a little bit of a choir. And again, same key of the song. This just adds a little bit of a kind of elevated sound. Like she just worked out really hard. She's like like there's like a, I don't know, angelic feeling essentially. And you also notice that there's some brass hits, there's some risers again. And my goal is to make it seem like that's part of the song. And it is not even close to being part of the song. But I added those things, same key, same tone, at a decent volume where it's not overpowering the song, but it's mixed well within the song. All of these different things add so much texture, add so much to the track. And now let's play it with the music. All right, now here going into this scene where it's kind of like she's in her own head, like it's almost like she got knocked out and she's hearing like stars and things like that, where I kind of made everything sound like it's underwater. I added a nice little sub bass here just to emphasize that this is a deep scene here. I also distorted it just so there's a little bit more of some higher end notes so you could hear it through a phone. So we will solo these as well. So the boxing sound is just a little fun thing that I added because I thought it fit well and I thought it was kind of funny. And the noise is something that I added because when I was making the underwater sound, it made sense to have this kind of ringing in her ear, like she just got knocked out essentially and she has to keep fighting. And what I did was I set that to an auto pan where it goes back and forth from left to right just to create this kind of trippy feeling. And next is some of the punches and the chains, but I set the chains to a very, very low volume so it wasn't too overpowering. Again, we have some of the punches and whooshes, but they are not as intense because again, this is a very underwater sounding. It's more like a that's what it sounds like to me. And then we have some more risers here. Ooh, we got a vocal loop, which is the choir. So you'll notice that I just like to blend a lot of sounds together. Again, same key, same notes. I like to blend them a lot. And especially with the choirs, I think they add so much that people just don't really notice, but they're one of my favorite sounds to add in something because it just makes it, I don't know, for me, it's just my style. And when adding a vocal, when adding a choir, when adding a hit like that, you could find the key of the song, and if it's an F major like this one, you could leave it in F major, but if you understand the scale of the F major, you can go up 5 semitones, you can go up 7 semitones, you can go up an octave, which is 12 semitones. You can make it like this, right? I'm going to just play the choir, and you'll hear from the beginning, it's a very lower one. And then I raise it up an octave to make it more of a angelic sound. Same key, but just an octave higher. And playing with those different things really can just create such amazing, unique sounds for you and your videos. And again, when playing with the risers and the horns, you really want to just make sure that they're faded in. You don't have to fade them out all the time. Sometimes I don't, but I always like to fade things in so it's a little bit more of a gradual instead of it just being like in your face. So a lot of the times I will just lean things in, really what you want to do is what I said before. You want to just play around with the different frequencies. You don't want so many bass things playing at once because it's going to be muddy. You don't want so many high notes playing at once because it's just going to ring your ears. So trying to find a balance between the lows, the mids, the highs, trying to find just an equal and full mix essentially should be your goal, and understanding what the most important sound is for you and keeping that at a base level and then mixing everything around that. I like to keep my mix at a -6 decibel when I'm mixing everything, and before I decide to add a limiter or a compressor at the end to maximize it, I like to keep it at a -6 decibel level. That for me is a great place where nothing's clipping. I could still hear things audibly, and it's mixed to a place where I can then raise the level to a mastered place. A lot of the mixing for me involves just EQ, a little bit of compression, some stereo fixing. So I'll make things wider. I'll make things more mono. I'll pan things. Nothing too extreme here, but a lot of it is just layering sounds. And I find that that is one of the most important things to a video. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit today. Again, all of the sounds I get are from a huge catalog that I own, that I've acquired over the past couple years. Also Epidemic Sound. Splice is also another great tool. And all the music that I find is always from MusicBed. They provide the key to the song, which is a beautiful thing, and it helps you. It pretty much just helps inform you in your sound designing and what you can choose, what sounds you could choose to match that song. So again, when you're in sound designing process, I recommend just playing around with different sounds, adding choirs, adding brass, adding all these things, but don't just add them for the sake of adding them. Like if she was running in a field with tulips, I don't think I would add brass and hits and things. So again, it all has to be relative to the video, and just have fun with sound design. To me, it's one of the most fun parts about creating a video is you literally could just try whatever you want and delete it if you don't like it. So yeah, that's how I created this sound for this little workout spec. Hopefully you guys walked away with something new today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, just want to say thank you to everybody. We are actually almost at 10K, which is pretty nuts. Never really thought that I would get there. It took me so long to just get to 1,000. So I just want to say thank you to you all for helping support me, this channel, and yeah, thank you. Really, thank you. If you guys are interested, click the link in the below to the Discord chat. We have almost 700 members now. It is pretty amazing how many people are joining every day. So if you want to be a part of that community, click the link below. Also, this video was created and this video was colored using my creative LUT pack. So if you want to check out those LUTs, click the link below and check those out. A small little purchase goes a long way and helps me kind of keep going at this channel. So if you could support me, and you'll also get some amazing LUTs that look like this. Sounds like a deal to me. But thank you guys as always. Have a great day. I will see you next time. Peace out.